My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 28 years old, and the night my phone rang, everything I thought I understood about family loyalty began to unravel. It started with a plea, late, urgent, impossible to ignore. I believed every word. I believed because it was my mother, and because family doesn't lie when the stakes are life or death, right? But weeks later, I saw something that turned belief into betrayal. Pictures I wasn't meant to see. Smiles I didn't share. A secret that cut me out of my own bloodline. I stayed quiet. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. Instead, I made one decision they never imagined I'd dare to make. And when I finally showed them what I'd done, the ground beneath them shifted forever. This is not about forgiveness. This is about the price of being underestimated. The phone call came just after midnight. My room was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioner, and the vibration of my phone rattled against the nightstand. I blinked at the screen, confused to see Mom calling so late. I answered, and immediately her voice spilled through the speaker, shaky, desperate, each word clipped with panic. "We're drowning in bills," she said, almost gasping. "The house, the medical expenses, everything is piling up. It's an emergency. Please, can you help us? Just this once." The way she said it cut through me. I could hear the strain, the plea hidden in her tone. For years, I had always been the one left out of things. My sister was the golden child, my parents' pride, the one who never had to explain herself. Me? I was the one who worked 2 jobs, stacked away savings quietly, never asking for help. So when Mom leaned on me like that, when she called me her only lifeline, it felt almost validating. I didn't think twice. I pulled up my banking app, stared at the $15, 347 I had worked years to put together, and without hesitation wired 15,000 straight into her account. "Don't worry," I told her, my throat tight. "I'll cover it. Just get things under control." "Thank you," she whispered, and for a moment her voice softened. "You'll never know how much this means." That night, I lay awake with mixed emotions. Pride for being able to help. Anxiety because it was all I had. Hope that maybe this time they would see me differently. Not the outsider, not the forgotten daughter, but someone worth relying on. 2 weeks later, on a quiet Saturday morning, I scrolled through my phone while sipping coffee. The light outside was warm, calm, and everything in me slowed until a picture filled my screen and froze me in place. It was Mom, standing in front of the Colosseum in Rome. Her smile stretched wide, her sunglasses perched on her head. Dad stood beside her, holding my sister close, both of them laughing. Behind them, 2 of our cousins grinned into the camera, all of them dressed in vacation clothes, the kind you buy when you plan to show off. My hand shook as I scrolled further. More pictures. My parents on cobblestone streets, eating plates of pasta, snapping shots from a gondola in Venice. My sister throwing her head back in laughter, our cousins holding shopping bags, the captions filled with jokes about living the dream. And then it hit me. They weren't drowning in bills. They weren't gasping under debt. They had taken my money, my last savings, and used it to fund a family trip to Italy. A trip I hadn't even been invited to. The betrayal was sharp, but what twisted deeper was the silence. No one had called. No one had told me. Not one message saying, "Wish you were here." I was erased, cut out, while the money I'd bled for made their smiles brighter. I stared at the screen until the images blurred. My stomach felt hollow, like the ground had vanished. I didn't cry. I didn't call. Instead, something inside me hardened. I opened my email, pulled up the transfer receipt, saved screenshots of the messages from that night, Mom's frantic voice on speakerphone recorded from my second device. I had kept it without even realizing how valuable it would become. I gathered everything. Evidence, neat and undeniable. By Monday morning, I sat across from my lawyer's desk, the papers spread between us. His brow furrowed as he flipped through them, his voice calm but deliberate. "You understand what you're setting in motion?" I nodded once. "They lied. They used me. I'm not asking for sympathy. I want it corrected." He leaned back, studying me, then began drafting. Within days, the filings were in motion. Not just to reclaim the money, but to secure a stake in something far more lasting, the house. The very place my parents had always held over my head, reminding me it would never belong to me, that I was merely a guest under their roof. With the paperwork shifting, the balance changed. My name joined theirs, not as visitor but as owner. 3 weeks later, their flight landed back in the States. The pictures had slowed, the captions had grown tired, and the glow of their Italian escape dimmed the moment they stepped onto their driveway, dragging luggage behind them. Mom reached for her key. It didn't fit. She tried again, jiggling it, frowning. Dad tested his, then glanced at her, confused. My sister tapped on her phone, already annoyed, muttering something about the lock being broken. That's when I stepped out of my car, parked just across the street. I closed the door gently, walked up the path, and pulled a folder from my bag. Their heads turned toward me at once, each face shifting, from irritation to disbelief, then to something quieter. You wanted a vacation, I said evenly, holding the documents where they could see the notarized seal. Now it's permanent. This house is mine. The silence that followed was heavier than anything I'd ever heard from them. Mom's lips parted, but no sound came. Dad's jaw tightened. My sister looked at me like she didn't recognize who I was. The driveway standoff burned into my mind long after their stunned faces faded. I didn't need to linger in front of them, waving papers in triumph. I let the words settle, let the silence do the work. I handed Mom the envelope with the property documents, turned without waiting for their reaction, and walked back to my car. The front door behind me stayed locked, their suitcases still on the concrete. I didn't look back. Inside the car, my hands gripped the steering wheel, steady now, no trembling. The engine's low hum carried me away from that house, our house, legally mine as much as theirs now. I drove without a clear destination, only knowing I couldn't sit still. Every detail replayed in my mind: Mom's shocked gasp, Dad's frozen posture, my sister's narrowed eyes. They weren't used to losing control, and I had taken it from them without raising my voice. 2 hours later, I sat at my apartment's kitchen table, the envelope spread out again in front of me. The signed papers bore my name, the signatures dry and final. I read every line twice, memorizing the legal jargon. Nothing had slipped through. My lawyer had been meticulous, ensuring their trip fuel betrayal had consequences heavier than they ever imagined. But I knew my family. They wouldn't fold quietly. They would claw, argue, throw accusations, maybe even spin lies to save face. Growing up, I had watched them twist stories to suit their pride. Mom loved turning every disagreement into a performance of wounded innocence, while Dad preferred blunt silence that punished without words. My sister specialized in venom disguised as casual remarks. Together, they formed a wall that shut me out. This time, the wall had cracks, and I wasn't stepping back. The first confrontation came the next morning. My phone buzzed nonstop with Mom's calls. When I didn't answer, she switched to texts. How could you do this? You've embarrassed us. We're your family. Then, you don't understand what this will cause. Be reasonable. We'll talk like adults. I let the screen light up, each notification another reminder of her pattern. Guilt, then anger, then bargaining. None of it mattered. They had lied about being in crisis. They had used my savings for a vacation that excluded me. There was nothing left to discuss. By noon, the knocking started. First soft, then louder. I opened my door to find my sister standing there, arms crossed, her face set in defiance. What the hell do you think you're doing? She snapped, stepping inside without invitation. I stayed calm, leaning against the counter. What does it look like? I'm protecting myself. She dropped her bag on the chair, her voice rising. You're ruining everything. Mom is losing it. Dad's furious. Do you think a stunt like this makes you powerful? You've torn the family apart over a misunderstanding. I pulled out my phone and slid it across the table toward her. On the screen, the recorded call from that night glowed with a simple play button. Go ahead, I said. Listen to what Mom told me. Emergency bills. We're drowning. Please help us. Then tell me this is a misunderstanding. Her expression faltered. just for a moment. But pride stiffened her spine. Even if she exaggerated, you don't punish your own family like this. You don't steal from your parents. I didn't steal, I shot back. I covered their lie with proof. And now the house reflects that truth. They don't get to hide behind family while using me like a bank account. Her jaw tightened. She grabbed her bag, storming toward the door. You think you've won. You don't know what's coming. The door slammed, and silence returned. I exhaled slowly. The old me would have chased after her, begged for understanding, tried to explain. But that part of me was gone. I wasn't chasing anyone anymore. Over the next week, tension escalated. Dad sent me a formal letter demanding I reverse the legal claim. I forwarded it to my lawyer, who handled it with cool precision. My cousins reached out through social media, hinting that I was cruel, ungrateful, that I had humiliated the family name. I ignored them all. Every evening, I drove past the house. Their cars sat in the driveway, but the curtains stayed closed. Sometimes I spotted shadows moving inside, pacing near the window. They hadn't left, not yet. But they no longer had the full authority they once wielded. The storm broke faster than I expected. By the second week, my parents had exhausted every tactic, calls, letters, guilt-laden speeches through the door of my apartment. Each one chipped away at their pride, but none of them touched me. I had proof, I had legality, and more importantly, I had resolve. The breaking point arrived one Friday evening. My lawyer called to inform me that my parents had tried to contest the property filing. He sounded almost amused as he explained how flimsy their claim looked in court. They don't have a leg to stand on, he said. The transaction trail is clear. Their trip is documented everywhere. If this goes further, they'll expose themselves even more. That was the end of their leverage. They couldn't argue law, and they couldn't spin the truth into sympathy when every photo and post displayed their indulgence. My silence had been sharper than any accusation, and now it cornered them. The following Sunday, I drove back to the house, not to circle the block this time, but to walk inside as the rightful owner. The locks had already been changed. My key slid in smoothly. I stepped into the living room, and the air was heavy with tension. My parents sat on the couch, my sister perched stiffly in a chair beside them. The suitcases from their trip still lingered near the wall, unopened. Their eyes turned toward me as though I were a stranger trespassing, not their daughter. Dad broke the silence first. His voice was low, steady, but stripped of its usual authority. You've made your point. We understand you're angry. But this is our home. I set the folder of documents on the table in front of them. It's mine too. You don't get to erase that anymore. Mom's face tightened, her tone trembling between plea and fury. We raised you. We gave you everything we could. And now you throw this at us like we're enemies? I met her gaze. You raised me when it was convenient. You gave me scraps while you poured everything into appearances. When you needed me, you called. When I needed you, I was invisible. I'm not invisible anymore. Silence fell again. My sister shifted uncomfortably, her arms crossed, but for once, she had no words. I walked past them, into the kitchen, down the hallway, each room familiar yet transformed. For years, this house had symbolized my exclusion. Now it represented my independence. Returning to the living room, I spoke clearly, without hesitation. You can stay, but you'll stay knowing this place is as much mine as yours. No more lies. No more control. If you want to live here, you'll accept that. Otherwise, you're free to leave. Dad's eyes narrowed, calculating. He was used to ultimatums being his weapon, not mine. Mom looked at him, then at me, and for the first time, she didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just sat there, stunned, as though realizing the weight of what they had lost. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to gloat. The silence told me everything. They had underestimated me, and it had cost them the one thing they valued most. That night, I locked the front door behind me and walked out into the cool air. For the first time, I felt no pull to look back. The fight was over. The house was secured, my voice had been heard, and their power over me was broken. Family had been the chain that kept me begging at the edges. But betrayal had taught me the truth. Loyalty without respect was just submission. I had traded that chain for something far stronger, control over my own life. Their laughter in Italy was gone. Their pride was gone. And me? I was finally free. The game ended with me holding the board.